After you sit on the toilet, don't you?
No.
Use that as your
not
meditation.
My wife, not your wife, nor anybody listening to this podcast has eaten a shit sandwich we didn't have a hand in making.
Welcome to Recovery Unfiltered. I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic.
I am Rob. I am also an alcoholic. We are not professionals. There are no letters after our names. We know very little. However, you will hear the word God and a four-letter word in the same sentence. You will also be offended. So if you are easily offended, just pass us by. This podcast is not for you.
Our opinions are just that. If you don't agree with what we're saying, that's okay. We're going to love you anyways. We are not in any way affiliated with AA.
So sit back, grab a beverage of your choice, and get ready.
Let's go. Hello, Robert.
Blue Raz. What's up, buddy?
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
You got a birthday hangover?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
That was a fun one.
That was. I appreciated that. That was really good. That was. Yeah. But I held it all together. That was good.
You did hold it together? Did you try to get emotional?
Nope. I don't try. I never try to get emotional. It just fucking happens. It sucks.
So we got a story coming in today. This one kind of comes to us. I recorded with Jason's wife, Jenny, when she started her podcast.
Jenny from the block.
Well, her podcast is Sober Shit Show. So Christy, she recorded with her on that first one when she came in here.
And you got to hear it. You said,
we got
to get her on.
Yeah, I got to listen to her story a little bit. Not as deep as we're going to go today. We're going to go a little bit deeper. We record a little bit differently than Jenny does, right? So we're going to go a little bit deeper. And so anyways, Christy, welcome in.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let me give a little bit of backstory on this one. So Blake, the guy that I've been talking about, that I got the opportunity to walk him through his steps. Mm-hmm. This is his girl. And then Nathan is good friends. Then you got to help with Christy with her steps.
Yes.
So it's all kind of, when we talk about it all being the family all the time,
God's got his little
my gosh,
fingers and everything.
We're all entwined. Yeah. We're inbreeders, I think. I don't know. maybe not. Christy, welcome on.
Thank you.
Tell us about yourself.
Okay. So first off, I'm an alcoholic.
No shit.
Right?
Did you know that before you got into AA?
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Unfortunately, we can hear you.
You know, I didn't really, when I first came in, I definitely knew I needed to be somewhere other than the bar. So
when you got into AA?
Yep.
So you didn't know you were an alcoholic. What I always find funny is people say, I didn't know I was an alcoholic till I got into AA.
Yeah, you start to realize things and see things in different perspective. You're like, oh, dang.
You see some guy that you... No wonder I haven't seen you for the last 2 years at the bar. This is where you've been hiding.
Right? I walked in and seen Nate, and I was like, oh, there you are.
Where'd you go? I went to AA.
Yep.
Same place you are.
Yep.
That was one of the things when we first started the Oakdale meeting, when Rob invited me over there to the Oakdale meeting. I'm like, well, I grew up in Oakdale. Am I going to know anybody there? And he goes, why does it fucking matter? They're in the same place you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
True that.
And of course, there's 2 guys there that you knew.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's at Brad's house.
Right. Oh yeah. So catch us up, Christy. Where are you at? Now remember, he knows a lot about you, so he's not going to let anything out.
Right. Yeah. No, he's not going to let anything slide.
No.
Are we just going to start from the beginning?
Yeah.
Tell us how you want to do it. However you want to do it.
Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Oakdale. I definitely grew up in Oakdale, seen all sides of the track. So that was it was different growing up, really. In Oakdale, I quickly got into drugs, like early age.
Cokedale?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I went straight to meth.
Hell yeah.
I went straight to meth.
Powdered accelerant sponsored by.
I skipped everything and just went straight there. And
before you even started drinking?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you?
I was 15. It was 5 days after my birthday.
Okay.
How the hell did that come about?
I was hanging out at a friend's house, and we just started. Someone came through the window, and
always a bad sign.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why is he hiding from the parents?
Oh,
well, he comes in and they start doing this. I'm like, ooh, what is that? Like, well, I've never been laced up on it. Like, hey, this is what it is. Don't do this. So when I seen it, I was like, hey, I wanna try. And they're like, no. I'm like, come on, just do it for me, you know. And then I did.
Do it for me?
Yeah, like, so it was
Line it
smoking
up.
out.
There's a
yeah,
friend.
like
Were they
smoking
smoking or shorting?
It was smoking. So it was
Oh.
the first time, you know what I mean, where they're just turning it for me and everything else, and that was it for me. Yeah, and I had just had my oldest at the time. So
Okay.
so yeah. So if we
So at 15, you'd already had a child.
yeah,
Well, let's
him at
back up.
14.
Let's
Yeah.
back up.
Yeah, we can start from the
Yeah,
beginning for sure.
let's start.
So, I was in junior high, and I had met a guy, and he was running from the law, and I didn't know why. I didn't ask questions. I was just like, okay, well, I want to be with him, so let's just figure this out. Well, he ended up wanting to go to Texas. Well, in that time, I was like, okay, well, I'm going with you. So that night before the bus left, I'm pushing suitcases out the back or out my window so that
Out of your parents' house.
yeah, out of my grandparents' house.
Okay.
Yeah. So and I did that, and then I just pretended I went to school, and I never went to school. I went to his aunt's house, and we left to the bus.
How old was he?
He was 16.
Okay, but hold on a second. We got to back up even a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
You were living at your grandparents' house. Let's go back to that.
Okay.
Why? How did you end up at
Where's
your
mom and
grandparents?
dad?
Yeah.
So okay, so
Sorry, I should be bad.
no.
No. We're remember
digging.
we're peeling onions now. We're
Right.
peeling onions.
Right. So, whenever I was one, my dad moved to Florida. There was some stuff going on with him and my mom, and so my dad just skipped to Florida, and then my mom was there to raise us. Well, that's where she just ended up staying with my grandma. So I grew up in my grandparents' house, and that's just what it was. My mom worked every day, and
So it was grandparents and mom and you.
yeah, so there was all three of us, and so it was a lot. I learned a lot of good things. Like my grandma taught me how to keep a house clean, you know, and all that, and what it looks like to be a family, and what you're supposed to do, you know, be supportive and just be there. But yeah, my mom was always working. Like I said, she was trying to support us, and so I just started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and it just kind of just went from there.
You have siblings?
Yeah, I have an older brother I don't really talk to, and I have a younger brother that we're close with.
Okay.
Yeah. So and we have different dads, so that was a little bit different. Also, so he didn't get to see like the same thing of where my dad wasn't there. His dad was a little bit there, but not completely.
The older brother?
The younger brother.
Younger brother?
Yeah, the older one, we share the same dad.
Okay.
But different moms. So, but yeah, I don't really talk to them.
Everybody from the Oakdale area?
My older brother lives in Riverbank.
Okay.
So close, but you know, but we're just not close. We just haven't really gotten that bond, I think.
Okay. So you push the suitcases. Let's go back there.
Okay, now we're 15 years old.
Now we're 15.
The man of your dreams is 16. We're headed to Texas, and out go the suitcases.
Yes, and it was like before we got caller ID and everything, so no one knew where I was. I didn't call for the first time, I think 3 weeks.
Oh shit!
And then so everyone was panicking, didn't know where I was. The school had called, said I never showed up, and I was already on my way to Texas.
Was there any kind of alerts put out? What year was that?
Gosh, probably 2001, 2002.
Amber alerts or anything out at this time?
No.
Wow.
No,
Okay.
no. So, but they did contact the police department. They contacted. It went statewide. It went everywhere, and I'm not sure how that got out, but that's how that happened. And so we were there. I made a phone call, and I called, and we didn't have caller ID then, so I just said, "Hey, like I'm just checking in or whatever."
Who'd you call?
Say hi. I called the house phone, and
Answer machine or a live person answer?
no, somebody answered.
Okay.
And the first time I had talked to my mom, and then I waited a week, and it like took so long to walk to this gas station to use the payphone.
Payphone.
So it was like it had to have been like I don't know. It felt like 10 miles for sure. But I would go there, and then like the next week I go there and I try to make a phone call to there, and then I had talked to them again. My aunt had answered the phone, and
did you tell them where you were, or did you just say,
no.
"Hi, I'm okay"?
Yeah, I'm okay. I just want to tell you guys I love you, and all of that. And I wouldn't tell them where I was. And then the next time I called, my aunt answered, and I think they already had gotten caller ID, so they already kind of knew I was in Corpus Christi. So
deep in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went to Corpus Christi. Well, I made that phone call and I talked to my aunt, and she said, "Hey, like your mom's not here." And I'm like, "What? Where's she at?" And she's like, "Oh, she's at work." Well, little did I know she was already driving to Texas to get me.
Wow.
So when I made another phone call, the cops swarmed us at the gas station, and he ended up going in. He got taken to California, you know, and they put me in like this little group home for a minute. And they're like, "Hey, like, well, your mom will be here in a couple hours to pick you up." I'm like, "What? It took me 3 days to get here. Like, how is she already on her way? Like, right. What?" Yeah, and she showed up with her cousin, and I was like, "Oh my God, who is this dude?" But they were just trying to get Christy back.
Yeah. So hold on, I got.
There's so much in there.
But
There's so much in there
because working with steps and her steps. I don't remember that now. Did you ever make amends to your mom for the work? Now that you're a mother, you know, have been a mother,
right?
And having one of your kids, did you ever make amends to your mom? I'm sorry to make you worry like that.
Yes, good. And now that you know I have the kids and stuff like that, it's like, dang, I really see like that was crazy to go through that. Like that's insane. But yeah, I think it's head on. You know, approaching it head on is good, and it always brings out those sappy moments, you know, but they're just pure, you know, and I couldn't apologize enough to take that worry back, obviously, you know.
Well, I like how you said that.
Yeah, and it's like, I could until I'm blue in the face, but it's not going to do anything, you know what I mean? And her in that moment had to have been in a panic, because now I have a 14-year-old, and that's like, I couldn't imagine.
But he's a boy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? I mean, that probably sounds extremely racist or sexist, but you were a 14. At any period of that time, were you scared? Did you ever get scared during that period of time?
No, I kind of wondered like what we were doing, like what we were gonna do, and I'm like, okay,
so what were you doing? How long were you in Texas?
Okay, so we were in Texas.
We're going down a whole other road right now, but now I'm curious.
So we were there for I think a month before we got caught. And then
what were you doing for a month? Who were you living with? Okay,
so we were living with his grandma, and she kind of questioned it for a minute or whatever, but then after a while she's like, "What in the world? Like, yeah, what is this 14-year-old doing here?" You know, and
with this 16-year-old.
Yeah. And no, it's just like I don't know, they just didn't look at that, I guess. I don't know. People are different, but yeah, so we stayed there. We stayed in a trailer. We didn't go in the house. Like, we stayed in her trailer. And like,
what were you doing for money? Any work? Not just living off of grandma?
I honestly don't know, because I don't really remember that part of it. I just remember
no drugs or alcohol during this period of time.
I was just going to get into that. So that was like the first time that I had ever smoked weed was there.
So there was
a little bit of weed right there before that, but other than that, it didn't go there, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I remember doing that the first time in the trailer. And then later on, then I find out that I'm pregnant, and we were just in the trailer.
How did this happen?
I don't know.
You found out you're pregnant. You found out you're pregnant in Texas.
Yeah, so now I'm pregnant in Texas, and that's when I found out, which was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And he's like, "We're gonna have the baby," and I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna have the baby, okay," you know. And after that, it was like I was dead set on it. I was like, I didn't worry about what we were going to do, how we were going to make money, how we were going to support this baby. We just
decided to have it.
Happened. Yeah. And at first, obviously it was like an uproar in the family and everything else, but definitely,
did you find out you were pregnant before your mom got there?
Yeah.
Okay. So when mom showed up and you went to the home, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
So not only did mom find daughter.
Yeah.
Reunion. Oh, by the way, daughter's pregnant.
Yeah. I didn't
You dropped
tell her.
some bombs on your mother.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad. I do. I promise. But yeah. So then we come back to California, and she had this boss of hers that was a close friend, and she had a daughter that was a little bit older. So what they decided, I guess, is that I'm gonna go hang out with these girls that are at this beach house. Like, here you go. Okay, you're back. Here, go hang out with them. And I'm like,
a better influence of people, supposedly?
yeah, I mean, in a sense. And then this girl, like, comes into the bathroom, and she's telling me, she's like, you're pregnant, aren't you? And I'm like, what? And then this other guy that's there, one of their guy friends that are there, and I'm thinking, what in the world? And he's trying to sleep with me, and I'm like, what? I don't want any part of this right now. Like, I'm like in my head so much right now that there's just absolutely no way. But I can look back at that now and just be like, wow, that's
what
not a route I would take.
More detail on that. Where was the beach house at?
I think it was in Tolic.
Okay. So was it supposed to be a halfway house, a Christian house? What?
No, it was just this.
Parents
this
know them?
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay,
So it was
okay.
my mom's boss at the time.
Okay.
It was her kids.
Okay.
And
So her mom was trying to get her around better.
She thought.
right.
Better
Yeah.
people.
Right.
Yeah.
She
yeah,
thought.
Yeah, she thought. And then, yeah, they were drinking, partying, doing whatever. And it just, and I was like, I locked myself in the bathroom, like, oh my God, what is going on? And then I ended up going back home. But after that, I just remember being pregnant, and his parents at the time would, his mom and his stepdad would stay at the reservoir, and they would just travel from reservoir to reservoir just in, I guess, an amount of time. Like, you can only stay there for so long.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? This is where I want to go. I want to go stay with them at the reservoir. So I'm like barefoot, pregnant at the lake. 14, living in a tent, like, and that was just where I wanted to be at that moment, I guess. But it was crazy hot, and it was miserable. I remember like coming out of the tent, like, and just being like all the morning sickness or whatever. But dinner time came around, and there it went. And I was like, I'm never going to forget this, just puking by the lake. Like, this is just, this is weird. But yeah. So then I had my son, and
So drugs, alcohol during your pregnancy? No, you were good.
No,
okay,
not
good,
for that one. No.
Good.
And but with that, it just kind of just started. Like, I just started having to grow up. Really, I mean, it was like taking care of the baby. But thank God I had the support that I did from my grandma and my mom, because I wouldn't have been able to do that.
And I know this son.
Yeah. Yes. And Robin is the son. And now he's about to be 23.
Yeah.
Or he's 22. Yeah. And so it's a little bit crazy. Like, I took him along with all my shit, and it's one of the things that I have to live with, but what can you do? You can't take it back. Take the worry back, but that's definitely hard. But
so let's pick back up at the 15-year-old taking your meth for the first time.
Smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember they're like, here, take this hit or whatever. And then he's like, stand next to the wall and look up, and you could feel the room moving. And I'm like, okay. So I did. I remember standing by the furnace and just like looking up, and I just remember feeling the whole world moving. And I was like, oh my God, we're on this. Let's go. And then I started like, I don't know, just tweaker shit, just drawing and all of this. And I remember like I drew this like this. this.
That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, and then I drew this dude on with a baseball bat or whatever. And you can heck tell like that I erased it a lot and doodling, erasing it. And my kid's dad comes into the room, and he looks at the picture, and he goes, "You've been tweaking." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Yep, you've been tweaking." He's like, "You're drawing." He's like, "And you're hella erasing it, and you're lying." And I was like, okay, and? He's like, "No." Like, what? And so then it just kind of went from there, you know. We ended up not being together after that. That was just done.
How old was your son at that point?
Let's see. When I started using?
Oh, he had to be about a year old then. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was born in November, and then I started using a month and 5 days after.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, I jumped right into it.
And up to this point, you talked about weed, you talked about meth, but no alcohol to speak of.
It wasn't, yeah. I might have maybe drank a little bit, like maybe with friends, but nothing that it was like, yeah, I want to drink.
No.
I just went straight to running hard, I guess. I don't know.
Boy, you went straight to having a kid.
Yeah, right. I'm just jumping.
Half measures avail us nothing.
Right? You are an overachiever, Christy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping to change that into good things now. But yeah, so, and then up a little bit more, I ended up having another child. A daughter, yeah. And she's now 19. And I remember sitting there, I'm like, oh my God. And at this point, I'm already methed out. I'm just maxed out to the thing. I'm sleeping all day. I'm staying up all night. I used to take my mom's car and then not come back for a couple days. And
messing around.
Yeah, messing around. And so when I did that, I found out that I was pregnant again. And I was like, I can't.
With the same guy?
No, with a different one. Yeah. And then this one, which we'll get into, but with this one, I was like, dang, I cannot bring her along with this. Like, I can't do it. And it was the hardest decision I ever made, but it was easy to think about what I can't provide for her, because I already haven't done that for the first one. Right. So I remember in the hospital when I was in Oak Valley, and I lay up there and there's like clouds on the ceiling, and they're like, hey, do you want to know the gender? And I was like, okay. And they told me it was a girl, and I just started crying and crying. Just, I don't want her to live my life, you know? So I ended up giving her up for adoption, which I signed up for a social worker in a sense of, for the oldest one, where they would come and check in the house or whatever every week, and just check on me, see how the baby's doing, see how I'm doing. So I had connected with her and had this bond with her where she would, just a personal relationship. And she's like, and I told her, I was like, hey, like, I'm pregnant. And she's like, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, I think I want to give her up for adoption. And she said, okay. She's like, I know the place to go. And I was like, okay. So we went to Bethany Christian Center in Modesto, and it's no longer there, but we went there, and she's like, hey, she's like, I know this family that goes to my church and that has wanted a baby, and they're looking into adoption. She's like, this is where they go or whatever. So take a look at their profile. And that's what it was. And it was definitely different for me to look at that. And I'm sure anybody else that has ever given an open adoption, you know what I mean, a shot, was looking at their profile and telling all about them and like picking to see who is going to take the baby. And like, you look at some of them, I'm like, dang, they don't look like they're going to last together for a while. So let's just switch and then just keep going. But the only people that really stood out to me were those people that she pointed out. And I was like, you know what, let's just do it. Well, I met with them every week.
Now, how far along were you when this process was going? Because you were carrying the baby and meeting with these people.
Right. So I was about probably 4 months, maybe.
Okay.
No drugs, right?
No. Well, yes.
Okay.
So then I continued to use in this time, and I had told them that, like, we have to be honest with the whole thing, right? So like, hey, just in case there's any complications, we can approach it as such, you know. But yeah, flipping through that book was just a crazy feeling altogether. But they ended up being super amazing people. Like, I would have never thought that I would have done the right thing, you know? And that's like a big, huge worry is like, am I going to pick the right people? And it just sounds crazy as I'm saying it. Like, you know,
but you were always involved even after,
right.
to this day.
So it wasn't, so it was an open adoption. So like there's certain things.
Explain that to what open adoption.
Yeah. Okay. So with an open adoption is that in this contract, there's a contract saying that they can't deny me to see her and they can't, they have to send me a certain amount of pictures every month of her progress, right? And where she's going. Well, they did above and beyond.
Wow.
They did above and beyond. So like it started our whole connection of them just being a part of the family. They show up to holidays. They show up to birthdays, like everything where we're just totally, and everyone knows who they are and what's new and what's going on. You know, that's how connected we were. And
what about your mom through that process? Your mom and your grandma during that process?
You know what? I don't really remember a whole lot of where they were at with it, but I do have an aunt that also gave up one for adoption, but hers was closed. So it was a little bit different. I don't think anybody really knew what
to expect or
what to expect out of it or what we're going to do, you know, or how that even works. But it ended up working out amazing just because we got so close. And so we ended up going to dinner every month and they bought me flowers. They just showered me with gifts and appreciation.
So this is my favorite part of her story.
Yeah, it's like just so much love that I didn't see.
They treated
that I was
you as
missing.
a daughter.
Huh?
They treated you as a daughter.
Yes,
Wow.
they did. And they still continue to do that to this day. To this day.
That's God.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah, and it's definitely amazing. I get to watch her grow, you know, and I get to be involved. Not as much as I would like to, but I feel like there's something that kind of is there that kind of separates myself from that feel, which I got to work on that in some way, but I just don't know how, you know, but
explain that a little bit more, Christy.
So like, I feel like with an open adoption, like I should, you know, she always knows that I'm there to talk with her anytime, you know, but I think my reaching out, hasn't been what it needed to be for her,
for your part.
For my part, for her, you know, just like, you know, filling in gaps and thoughts and, you know, just being there. I don't think that I did the best I could in that situation, because what I think I did is I didn't utilize it being an open adoption. If that makes any sense.
That makes perfect sense.
You know, so I could have done more. And I should have done more. But the only thing I can do now is today.
How old is she?
She's 19.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So that was good. And then later on, later on, I ended up having another child. So, and this one, you know, he's a boy, and I ended up keeping him. So I think like her thoughts, I think, in it is, you know, why did she keep the boys?
Why'd you give up the girl and keep the boys?
Yeah.
That's the first thought I said.
Yeah.
Thought.
And I do know that she's had that thought, you know, and she's growing up now and she's seeing life for what it is, you know, and it's
her own thoughts.
Yeah. You know, and I do believe she gets, you know, the support and stuff that she needs from her family and from outside help, you know. I'm hoping that that's still a thing. But again, like with that, I don't have any control over that.
Right.
So I just have to hope and pray on that one.
She's her own person now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. She's just...
But and the beautiful thing is life happens, because I don't care who you are, life happens.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She'll have more perspective on and where we are in these moments. You know, you have a moment to make a decision, you know, especially with a childbirth, but you have a moment.
We've talked about that.
And where you are in that moment may not be where you were the year, 2 years, you know, wherever the next moment. But you have to do what you think is best in that moment. And everybody's got to face those decisions.
1,000%.
And the more she faces, she's going to realize you did the best. You made the best decision you could with the information you had. And look what, because I know son number one, and the environment he grew up in is she's blessed. The daughter is
Yeah.
So blessed to have gotten that environment.
Yeah.
So it was a great decision.
Yeah. I feel like all 3 of my kids have gotten a version of me that wasn't healthy. It doesn't matter which way it was, but it was like, dang, I really had a part in even where you are now just because of my choices. And that's how, like, I hope that they look at that one day and, like,
make better choices,
and make better choices, because what I do affects them, and what they do will affect their kids, and it's like one of those things that, you can guide and do so much, but I didn't. I didn't do what I could have done, but I can't live there in that moment. I have to show up now, and
be the best you can be today.
Yeah.
What you are.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the best version of me that I've ever had. And it's just crazy to think that, like, from 14 to now, like, I never, again, this is the best version of me. You know what I mean? Every year was something new.
Well, let's back up just a minute. We're going to get to the recovery part. So what age were you when you had your third child?
22.
Were you drinking and using during that period of time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So your third son is born. Did you decide to keep him, the dad, around?
He is now.
Okay.
But he wasn't.
Okay.
And it was more of, he had an addiction himself.
Okay.
And it led to prison and everything else, and luckily not death. So now we're both, like, living in recovery, but it's still different. It's still, there's a lot more to it to this day
absolutely.
too. But yeah, no, my youngest is 14 now, and he's going to be 15 in September, but life is just, like, around it, and I can see things now for what it is and how I could change it and what I need to do. So recently, I ended up letting him go to Oklahoma to stay with his aunt. So,
not Texas.
Your side?
Not Texas.
Your side or his dad's side?
His dad's side.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where he's at now. And it's a little bit different, but I want to show up even though he's not here. And that's the thing, is that if I see patterns, how I grew up or how my other son grew up, it's like I have to make changes appropriately to make sure that I'm no longer a person that could, in a sense, be part of their trauma or whatever,
Right.
So that's,
you recognize that now, though.
Yeah.
But you understand what the trauma did for you as a child.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to ask one question, and I'm going to go way back. We didn't really talk about 0 to 14, that period of your life. Do you want to talk about that period?
I honestly don't really remember a lot of it.
So you got trauma from 0 to 14 that you really haven't probably hit on yet.
Yeah, I don't even know what's there, because the only thing that I remember is when life started, it felt like it was at 14.
Wow.
So, like, I remember
there's some blockage there.
Yeah, like, I remember going to school, and I remember, having friends and all of that. But, like, other than that, I don't remember.
Wow. 0 to mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your memory.
That's fast life. Well, I mean,
that's your memory. If you really put it into perspective, it's 0 to mom, right? Because if you think about it, this whole story that we're talking about started at 14 when she became a mom,
right?
And there's not a lot of memory prior to that.
Yeah, I don't remember anything. Well, I feel like there's just, like, I remember 6th grade camp, and
I remember. See, I don't remember a lot either. I mean, I remember.
See, I
remember highlights. I
don't know. I think that's where I'm a little different. Is
my 5-year-old Christmas? Okay, I remember that. I remember, like, when I split my head open. I remember that Superman. I remember shooting my sister, trying to shoot her in the face with a pellet gun, and then my dad broke it. made me pee my pants because I remember highlights, but I don't remember day in and day out stuff.
Well, God, no, we're not going to remember day in and day out stuff. But I
just remember highlights.
Was your parents together during
Dad,
from 0 to 14?
No,
Dad was gone.
Dad left.
But were you treated by aunts and uncles? Okay, was there aunts and uncles involved? Was there brothers and sisters in and out 0 to 14?
No, it was just
life.
Yeah, just my grandparents and my mom, and like we had regular family functions.
I guess maybe I'm trying to dig into something too far.
Well, it's just not.
It's just not. I mean,
there was no trauma there really. That's just life.
No, it was a healthy home. Like
pretty just a normal.
Yeah,
just a normal childhood. Then
we went to catechism and everything else. And I remember,
I think I'm trying to figure out why at 14 you decided to run away to Texas.
Well, she got mixed up with the boy that gave her. Yeah, fell in love.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
Yeah. Well, again,
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
It's just
no
crazy
father.
for me.
No father is huge.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
No father is huge.
Yeah.
That
so
is,
you,
that
by the
is
way,
huge. And if my mom's always working, then I'm just there with the grandparents. So then it's kind of like the grandparents raised
was Grandpa didn't take that place at all?
He did, but
tried, but it's not.
No, I get it.
But yeah, they ran their own company and everything else, so they were more into that. My aunt used to work for them, so then she would come in. She's working in the office, and we would go in there and talk to her while she's working. But other than that, it was just normal.
Christy got to do whatever Christy wanted. Kind of go.
No, and that's what it was when I started getting, and they were trying to grab control, but I had already.
I've already got freedom. I
already got freedom. You can't take it away from me now.
Especially, yeah. So that's where that happened.
Sorry, I was sitting here thinking as you were talking. I'm like, wait a minute. I felt like we were missing a piece, but apparently we're not.
No.
Apparently we're not. Okay, all right. So let's. So your third son is born.
Mm-hmm.
Third child.
Third
second
son.
child.
Let's start from there. When did your alcohol really? Because we've talked about weed, we've talked about meth. We haven't really talked about when. Your son was born, you were what age?
She was 22.
21, 22, yeah.
When did that alcohol begin to progress in your life?
I think
and or pattern excellence with it, because that was always part of.
Right. So after I had my daughter, I started drinking a little bit, but I was still in so much of my active addiction that the alcoholism didn't shine through. And I could get into that because I quit meth when my son was born. My youngest son was born. So it's been, I don't know, 15 years since I've used.
You were able to just walk away from that.
Right. Wow. So I can get into that as well. Yeah. So whenever I found out I was pregnant with my son, I at some point in the pregnancy I had stopped, but what had happened was my first son's dad, he was dating this girl, and we did not get along at first at all, but as soon as they broke up or whatever, we became friends. And so whenever I told her that I was pregnant, she said, "You're moving in with me."
Jesus.
Yes. That was the best thing that has ever happened.
Nice.
And she said, "Nope, you're coming under my wing. This is what we're doing, and you're not going to use." And I didn't use.
Wow.
Yeah, that was.
God has been a huge part of your life.
Yes.
And many blessings. That's crazy.
Yes. So then after that.
Is this who I think it is?
Leslie?
Okay.
Yeah. So I moved in with her. I didn't use. There was partying going on around. Our choices in men weren't the greatest. So it was like party city over there.
Well, you chose the same man.
Right. Well, yeah, right. Definitely. But at this point, she had already moved on and stuff like that. Right. But in that moment, it was just like, I got my girl crew, and nothing's gonna phase us, right? And that was what it was. And so I ended up having the baby, and 6 months after I had my youngest, I met a gentleman, and he was like, "Hey, you can move in with me." And I was like, okay. So I moved in with him. Because at whatever point, I ended up moving back in with my mom because I had the baby. There was no room for the baby at her house. It was just kind of small. But so I moved back with my mom. And at this point, we had already moved from my grandparents' house into our own apartment. So that happened, I guess we're going back and forth, but that happened after my first son was born. So we went and moved in to an apartment. And then I just remember like everything was changing, you know, and I like my mindset, but also I started drinking. So in that event, I just switched one for the other. Okay. So then when I moved out of my mom's house into this guy's house, we were together for a couple years, and but he helped me raise my youngest because his dad wasn't there. He was in and out of jail and everything else. So we kind of just looked at him like, hey, this is your father figure in a sense. Okay. So that, but that quickly deteriorated because of alcohol.
Okay. He wasn't a drinker.
He, the guy that we moved in with. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And at that moment we were, and I think this is when my alcoholism definitely hit a peak, because when, we were there, we were drinking gallons of Bacardi every night, and it was just the two of us. So, and it became like a huge party. Well, I had my oldest living there with us, and I had my youngest, and it just became a crazy fight all the time. And yes, and it was straight chaos. And it was just, there's so many memories in that, but it's like to the point where it's like, you know, we start laying hands on each other and everything else. But my stuff was on the front porch every week. Like, it was just so chaotic that like we ended up going to a party, and we didn't have the youngest with us, and it was out there on River Road, and we go out there and everyone's partying, having a good time, and then he gets mad or jealous over something, and then we get in the car. He's like, we're leaving. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And it had to do with jealousy, but nothing that I had done from my recollection. So when we go and we're going down the road by, what's that bar that's there now? I don't know. It's Cricket Spur. But anyway, Whiskey River is what it was. So we were going by Whiskey River, and he's like, I can't find my phone. And I'm like, okay. He's like, we have to go back. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, fine. So he like whips it around really fast. Well, I end up drunk pulling the wheel, and we go off that embankment and we go down and about 25 feet, and I fly out the windshield. And then I have this adrenaline, and I just climb up the hill, and then I collapse. And the next thing I remember is the meta flight coming.
Oh, wow.
And so I had like a walker, and like it was, I couldn't walk. I didn't have strength in my back from the fall.
Wow.
But it was crazy. And for years, I blamed him for that. But not until I came into the rooms, I was like, oh, this is my fault, you know? And I
that owning our own shit hurts.
I know. I was like,
Sucks.
oh my gosh. But it was a good feeling to actually take responsibility for that, you know? And some of the things that I've learned too, it's not like, you know, it's like, oh man, you know, but it's like, oh, that was my fault. Okay. So here
I can let go of this resentment. I can let go of this anger. I can let go of this hatred because.
Yeah. So before I even started working the steps, I messaged him. I was like, hey, by the way, I blamed you for years for this, and I apologize so much for that.
That's before you even got to that step.
Before I even got to that.
What was his response?
Yeah, he just said, like, no, it's okay. Like, I take part in it, too. And it kind of just went from...
Was he in the rooms, or...?
No. Oh. No, he's still, to this day, in active addiction as well. So, but yeah, it was crazy to think of that. Like, dang, because I did. I blamed him for years.
Yeah, but he admitted that he had part in it even inside of his addiction.
He took the blame for it for years.
Really?
And I think it was because he still had some sort of feeling there. But he's like, yeah, no, whatever, it's my fault, you know what I mean? Because in a sense, it was both
Bitch, you grabbed the wheel.
Right? I was driving just fine. Like, probably not, but but yeah. But then that's when my partying. I was at the bar from Thursday to Sunday. I would hang out with a group that we were walking distance from it. So then we would just go there, and I would stay the night from Thursday to Sunday, and just.
Where were the kids?
The oldest was with my mom, and the youngest was either with me or with my mom. So my mom had a big part in helping raise the kids because I wasn't fit to do it, clearly.
Now, let's go on a little bit. How long did that? So let's go to your recovery, right? So how long were you an active alcoholic? Well, we're still active alcoholic, but I mean, how long?
No, she's not active alcoholic now.
No, but no, recovered. You're right. She's recovered. But how long were you?
I would say from 24 to, how long have you been sober?
In July, it'll be 2 years.
Okay.
So
24 to there.
Yeah. So you had, you guys are going to make me do the fucking math. Answer the question.
10,
how long?
like
Thank you. God
years.
damn it.
Let's ask her how old she is. I don't ask women how old they are.
That's what I was trying not to do.
Christy, how old are you?
37.
Okay.
Just a kid.
All right. So you were about 10 years
Taken
in.
for notes.
There. Yeah. So you were there for 10, you were in it for about 10 years.
Yeah.
So what led you to
the rooms of AA?
Right. What led you to that incomprehensible demoralization to where you're like, I can't do this anymore?
Okay. Okay, so with that, like I already knew where to go, because when I got sober off of meth, or when I got clean off of meth, I started going to AA and or NA, and that's when I started realizing, like, oh, okay. So when I got into like the problem part of it, I'm all tripping right now.
There must be something hard coming.
No. But I at whatever point I was in a relationship, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm never gonna get over this dude if I continue to do these patterns. Like, this is just insane. I get drunk and then I call him, and then we end up back in the same mess and everything else. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to AA, and I'm gonna do it for 2 weeks. Right? So I did, and I did it for 2 weeks, and he calls me up and he's like, hey, so I'm about to get with this girl. Do you want to try things again? And I said, no.
Atta girl.
I said, no, I don't want to. I'm done. And I needed that time to sit there and do that. Right. So now fast forwarding to almost 2 years ago, I was in this relationship. And
pattern recognition.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it's the fights. It's the worry. It's everything that came along with it. That was like, dang, like this person came into my life. And from the 2 week or whatever, okay, when I went through that, I put up these walls so high that I was like, nothing could touch me. Like, this is not going to be ever a thing. I'm never going to date until I feel it. And that's what it was. I ran into somebody in a bar, and I was like, which probably wasn't the greatest idea, right? But I had these walls and I had standards, and I was like, you know what? This isn't going to happen. Like, I'm not going to go through the worry or anything like that again. Well, then getting into it, like, it was awesome at first. You know what I mean? I got the good morning text, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Yeah, the ooh and the ah, yeah.
The butterflies, it's supposed to be that way.
Yes, but it was a long distance relationship, so that's what I hung on to, was those phone calls, you know? But at a certain point, with both of us drinking, I had such a part in it, as well as whenever he got off work, I was already at the bar. So our connection started just losing itself. And it was hard. Well, he had gotten sober for a few months, and he was like, you know what? I was driving by the ocean, and I was thinking, like, dang, I don't have anything here. Like, I think I want to move. And I was like, what? Okay, I'm going to call you when I get off work, because we need to talk about this. And when I get off work, I remember looking at my desk, and I'm just like in my chair swiveling, like looking at my desk, and I'm on the phone with him, and he's like, yeah, he's like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to move. And I'm still drinking at this point. I'm like, I cannot do this. We have not worked through anything all the problems, you know what I mean? There's certain people that were enabling him to do bad. And instead of like, hey, like, you are are ruining this, right? I had to like, wait a minute, I don't even, if you can't see it, because it wasn't the other people around us, it was him, you know, and it was hard to even take a step back altogether. But I was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. If you think you're gonna move, I cannot do this anymore. I was like, I don't want to. I just went off, and I went off on this thing. This was my last drunk, and he said he wanted to move, and I flipped out, and I was like, we haven't even dealt with anything that's been going on.
He wanted to move closer to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so he wanted to move up.
So
okay.
Yeah, so he wanted to move up north. Well, because he was living in LA or Long Beach at this time, and I was just in a full panic, like, no way, because he spent so much time at this person's house where it messed with my head so much. Like, I would go to work and he would be there right after I left for work. He's already
now it's starting to click.
Yeah, and he would just get in his car, and he would not even say good morning to me or nothing. Like, he just got in his car and went straight there, right? And I'm like, what is it with this person? Like, what is the connection? And it just sent me in this rage, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I was like, dang, we never even figured that out. Like, are you still going to hang out with those same people? Are you still going to have those habits? Are you still going to leave right when I get off work and not even acknowledge me? Are we still, drinking the second that you wake up? And it just, none of it sounded right at that moment where I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. And now I don't even want to be with you.
So you head off to AA?
Yeah, and I went to AA. I walked in the rooms, and I'm like, I'm here on a breakup. And once again...
Number 2.
Yep, breakup number 2. And these days started adding up, and they're like, hey, day 3.
The days started adding up. I fucking love it.
Well, she got involved, too.
Right. Yeah. So, and I would go there every day, and I'm like, I cannot sit here and hang out with the same people that I was hanging out with, because it's just... And I didn't want myself in that situation again.
Atta girl.
So then I went back to AA, and I was like, you know what? And as everyone started, like, I walked in and everyone's like, day 3? I'm like, yeah. Day 4? Yeah. Nice. And it was
AA,
the most amazing thing, because growing up at 14, or whatever, like, if you're jumping from 0 to 14, right, and now you're just about to have a kid, you don't hear you're doing great. Right. You don't hear that praise and stuff that kids need, you don't. And so when I walked into the rooms, it was like, dang, people are proud of me. Like, what? I'm doing something amazing. So then I liked the sound that everyone else was just like counting my days with me. And it was doing something with me and just made me feel a part of. And as I just kept going, again, the days started going and the months started coming. And then I ended up getting into service. But what I did was, yes, getting into service, but there was like a whole side of the whole recovery thing that is different, because I originally asked somebody to be my sponsor, and they told me no. And they said, here you go, try this person. I'm like, okay. So I tried that person, and we had a great connection. It was more of a friendship, I think, and not the strictness necessarily that I needed. But that person ended up relapsing. And then I go to look for the grand sponsor, and the grand sponsor ended up skipping out for a little bit, not necessarily in a relapse way, but just not present. So then that's when I found my sponsor now.
Let me talk about that just for a second. Do you have any idea how much strength it took for you not to walk away from AA during that little period of time? Do you realize, do you give yourself that credit? Yes, because I had gotten to a situation, and I was actually going to relapse. I really was. And if I'm being completely honest, like, that's what it was. It was 4th of July. Was it last year? Yeah. Last year. Yeah. That, I had just hit my 1 year, and I was putting on that event or whatever, part of, putting on that event. And for AA.
Yeah. And something was like kind of just getting to me. Well, at this moment, like, I had a resentment, and I was like, dang, like, this is. And you recognize that without even going through the steps yet. Right. Right. So then I was like, you know what? I was like, oh my God, I have this resentment, right? So I had to take the money from the 50-50 raffle, right, and take it to the fellowship. And as I walk in the door, the person that I had a resentment with was there along with my sponsor now. And I had said that too, and I had like this little spiel, and I was like, hey, like, no one has thanked me for this, right? And that's another part of the growth part, because in that time I needed somebody to say that good job, right? And I think just newly in sobriety, it's kind of, I think it's important that people, you know, say that, but now looking at that, I don't need validation, right? So I need myself to do that. But in that moment I was like, hey, like, nobody thanked me. Like, this is what it was. My sponsor relapsed and everything else. And I told them, and I had mentioned that it took a lot, everything that I had to not walk away and just go to the bar. Right. You know? But I stuck with it. And then I ended up like one of the people, she's like, oh, my sponsor, she's like, oh, I'll give you guys a minute. I said, no, you need to hear this too, because you just stepped in when I needed someone the most. So I appreciate you. And it was just an awe moment where I wasn't disrespectful. I wasn't rude. I stated facts, and I told them exactly how it was and what their position in it was supposed to be in my life, because they took on that role. That's what it was. And I was like, dang, like, oh.
Adult shit.
Once again, want to remind everybody, all that before she worked the steps. Just being in the rooms of AA gave her that strength to work through that. Hearing how everybody else worked through it gave you the strength to do what you just did. Most people, 3 and 4 years of sobriety, still can't do that.
It's a process.
You know what I mean? She had worked. You deserve a ton of credit for that.
Thank you.
To work through that the way you did, without any kind of direction on how to actually do it.
And I think her being in service the way she was, right. She was really, you know,
no, she observed it. Yeah. She had seen it happen probably multiple times and knew, if I was going to stay sober, this is what I got to do. Right? I've been doing the service. I feel this resentment.
I got to clean it.
I got to clean it because I've heard other people say
But she did it in a way that she didn't create another resentment.
Right.
It was adult.
So now you got your sponsor.
Yes.
Out of that confrontation.
Yes. Yes.
And she's hot
about that. I wouldn't say it.
She's hot.
Stop it.
She is. But yeah, so then that, like, I was able to work through that and then gain my sponsor I do have now. And just the people that surround that whole thing is like, I was like, dang, that's when I got to be a part of it.
Right.
Because I felt like, like I didn't cause a scene. I didn't have to do any of that, but I was very specific on what I thought and the way I should
handle it like an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And that's where she came the woman, you know.
Yeah. That's where I felt.
On top of
I was like, I'm on top of my sobriety.
Right.
Let's go.
Atta girl. That just gave me goosebumps.
So after that, it was back in November. Well, a little bit before that, after that situation, my grandma had ended up getting more sick, and she, it was so crazy to watch her, you know, whittle away, you know, in a sense of like just her being. But I put up the tree every year, and even when I was drinking, I still did it, but I didn't necessarily take it always down when I was supposed to, but I did make sure that I was there to set up that tree every year. And for the last couple of years, she's like, no, it's all right. No, you don't have to. I'm like, Grandma, I want to. I was like, my mom can help me take it down, you know, or whatever, sign something up for Mom again. But it ended up working that way. Well, this last year, Grandma got really, really sick, and they ended up putting her on hospice. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to set up this Christmas tree early.
Atta girl.
And so I did. And before she started, before she stopped opening her eyes so much, I put up the tree and I put it on a little stand, and I downsized from the big tree to the little one so I can get it closer to her. And I put it next to her table, and the last thing that she opened her eyes and looked at the tree and smiled. And it was so beautiful that I got to see that smile one last time for something that I did, And it was crazy because she helped raise me. She was such a huge part in my life. And you're making me cry. There's such a huge part in my life that I get to look back and I'm like, dang, I learned so much from her. And I was honored to do her eulogy at her funeral.
Sober.
Sober. And she constantly told me how proud she was of me. And that was like so amazing to hear. And
Kleenex right there.
And so it was so amazing that I got to be a part of that. And well, in that time, she ended up passing on Thanksgiving. And if we go back, like I was still broken up from the one that was gonna move.
Who's here right now?
Yeah, who's here right now. And it was, she ended up passing away on Thanksgiving, and I was still in contact with him, and I messaged him because he was sick for like a couple weeks, and I'm like, hey, like, are you okay? Hey, I'm just checking on you, and hey, I'll give you an update on grandma, blah, 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 and he's like, yeah, I'll drive up north whenever, she passes. I would like to go to her funeral. I'm like, okay. So then I tell him, and like that night it was super late because we were having the gathering at my grandma's house still. And so everyone was there. She was surrounded by everyone in the family, and we still enjoyed our last Thanksgiving together, and all of that. And she passed that night. And I messaged him and I said, hey, Grandma passed. I just wanted to let you know. And it still had like the red receipts on there, and he didn't open it. I'm like, there's something wrong. And I remember him being sick, but he wasn't on the phone a lot. And I was like, okay. Well, I waited, and then I still didn't hear from him. I tried calling him and texting him and everything else. And I ended up calling his friends, and I was like, hey, has anybody heard from him? Like, what's going on? And no one said. They said, yeah, I heard from him yesterday. I said, no, but did you hear from him today? I need to know if you heard from him today. And everyone said no. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, we got to call for a wellness check because I don't think he's okay. And then we call, and they're like, okay, call back in an hour, and we'll let you know if we hear anything, And I said, okay. Well, they ended up calling us back anyway before that hour even ended. And they said, yeah, he was transported to St. Mary's. So this whole time, like, I was thinking, oh my God, that wellness check, like, how long was he laying there? Was he sick? Is he dead? What is going on? And being that I wasn't, his wife or family member or whatever, It was difficult. But luckily he had a friend there that kind of set it up and was like, hey, like, we have family coming from north, down south or whatever to be here. And it was just, it was so crazy because I didn't know what was happening. I had no idea.
And you're dealing with your grandmother's death.
Yeah. So it was right after that. And it was 2 days after she had passed, I ended up heading down south. And
we recorded right around that time.
It was hard.
We recorded with Jenny during that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was just getting. I mean, it was touch and go.
When you were here,
when we were doing step work, he was still in the hospital.
You were talking about it. We didn't talk about it on the show, but you talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I feel like I even tried to record something with Jenny after that, and I was just not in the zone at all. I didn't have, and I honestly think that for me, God puts things in my two things in my lap, I guess, at the same time, so I don't just hyper focus on one. And there was a lot of things like just with my grandma's funeral and stuff like that where I didn't need to be a part of it. Okay. I just kind of let them figure it out and everything else. So I went down south, and walking into that room and seeing him like that,
what was he like?
he was unresponsive. He wasn't, he was sedated, he was intubated, and he was all puffy, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So like ended up staying there for 2 weeks, but talking to the nurses and everything else, and they're just like, yeah, you just have to wait. We just have to wait. And I'm like, they started putting chest tubes in him and everything else, and just watching all this stuff drain from his lungs was just amazing. Amazing to see, like, just, oh my God, what's going to happen? What is this? And I watched it go up on the meter, and then once they put the that first chest tube in, I seen a little bit of life in him again. But before that, I didn't see any life. And I tried talking to him and everything else. They're like, yeah, he doesn't even hear you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So then once they put in the second chest tube, I seen a little bit more, but they tried to get him off that ventilator. And every single time they lowered it so that he would breathe on his own, his heart rate and his blood pressure, everything just shot straight up.
Stressed.
And I told them too in that, I was like, hey, like, if you're gonna lower it, let me be there, because he's scared. And I understand, like, looking back, I understand even in that moment, they're probably like, yeah, they don't want anybody sitting there going, hey, wake up, but for that time that they were doing it, I was like, hey, like, I need to be here. But I ended up telling them everything that was going on. I was like, hey, I have to leave on this date. Like, so I'm going to be calling, and I need you guys to give me the updates and everything else, because I don't know I have to go back. And so I ended up going back like the day before my grandma's funeral, and then did the eulogy, and then went right back.
Now, can we say we'll put this gentleman in the hospital now, or should we have him on the podcast later on?
We can't. Go ahead.
Pull that fucking mic close.
What were you in the hospital for, young man?
I had a serious pneumonia. I was getting headaches too. That night was.
Excuse me, who are you?
I'm Blake, alcoholic. What happened that Thanksgiving night was I was sitting there leaning over my chair watching football, and then all of a sudden I never call ambulance or anything, and I couldn't breathe. It hurt to breathe. My right side of my chest was killing me. I went to lay down, and I was like, oh no, something's not right. I decided to get in the shower, couldn't breathe, barely step in, and I ended up calling the ambulance on me and the fire department. And the last thing I remember, I know I was already in the hospital, because I remember being on the thing and them saying, all right, give him some morphine, and I fell asleep, and then I woke up 3 weeks later.
Was this alcohol induced, or?
Oh yeah, definitely severe pneumonia. I'm the type I'd wake up with a beer and 2 shots. That was my breakfast.
Heck yeah.
I was weaning myself off alcohol, not because I wasn't. It was just a normal thing for me to drink. I wasn't getting. To me, I wasn't getting drunk, or say, just a steady buzz, or
just like Larry.
Just a head change, just to go throughout my day.
Yep. Yeah.
But
I think that's why God put him in my life.
Yeah, you drank just like him. Start up, go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That's when. So this is when you and I started doing step work on here about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because
you were. Yeah, it was close to death. I mean, real right there.
Yeah, and I just remember like thinking like why prolong it? If you're gonna take him, just take him. Why? You're asking God this. Yeah, and I'm like, what is going to happen? Like, what is this? What is this? And in that moment, it was hard, because I was the only one that had keys to his house. I'm the only one that knew where he lived. And I sat there in that apartment, and I was alone. And I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, there wasn't even a time where I had to think about anything else that was going on.
All the time staying sober.
all the time staying sober. And what I did was, while I was there, I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, I called Rob, I called Susan, I called everybody I could. I swear I was on the phone either updating people or talking through my feelings or whatever. And I remember walking and I was walking.
She called Nathan quite a bit too.
Yeah, I did call Nathan quite a bit too. And all these people were there and I was like, but I need something here. So I started going to meetings every day there. And then after the meeting, I would go to the hospital and sit for a few hours and then go back to the house. But parking was crazy. So by the time I got back, we had to like illegally park for so many times. I got like 2 tickets per car. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I have to move his too. So it was crazy. But, and then all while connecting with his family that he'd been estranged from was different too, you know. So it's like, I don't really know these people, but I'm having to talk to them and then like updating them and everything else. They're like, who is this lady coming in here thinking that she knows everything? I'm like, because I do, I swear. You know, but it was definitely hard. But I ended up going to meetings and everything else, and I ended up going to a women's meeting there, and I was like, cool, I clicked with somebody. I found people there.
In LA?
Yeah.
In Long Beach.
Yeah, in Long Beach. And so being there and then I was like, hey, you know, this is all I'm doing. I'm here checking on him and everything else. And for the whole time I was like, I'm doing this from a friend's standpoint. Like this is what it is. And I think is like my separation from my feelings, I think a little bit was like, I'm here on a helping hand of AA. Here I am, right? And
12 step in it.
Yeah. And I was like, take this, what I'm doing. So,
before she's even done the steps. I don't know why I want to keep bringing that up.
We're in the process of.
Oh, you are in the process during this time. Okay.
Yeah. So whenever I came back and I ended up like waking up, but before that, I was telling them like, hey, like I need to be here, and they're like, oh, no, it's all right. We'll try to wake him up right now. And the lady just hits a button, and then I was like, oh my gosh, well, what does that do? Like, what did you just do? And she's like, we're gonna try to wake him up. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. The door's wide open. It was like a sliding door. The curtain's wide open and everything else. And there's a whole bunch of chaos going on. And I'm like, what are they doing? Like, if you're waking him up and you guys are so worried about what he's, you know what I mean? So I turned off the lights and I shut the curtain. And I sat there for a good 3 hours. And I just rubbed his hand. And I was like, hey, I'm here. It's okay. It's okay. Everything's okay. And it was scary because those moments, you know, when they're trying to get off the ventilator, it was hard because you can see when he started to panic. And so I kept doing that, and I did it for so long that finally he woke up, and it was crazy to see. And then like he already had a trach in and everything else, so he wasn't able to communicate as much. But I was like, hey, do you know how long you've been here? And he said, no. And I said, do you want to know? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, okay, you've been here for 21 days. And he's like, geez, you know. And
do you remember that, Blake?
No, I don't remember that conversation completely. I think I was still in a daze. The first thing I remember waking up to was seeing family members from Oklahoma that flew out. And then I was coherent.
But you don't remember Christy rubbing your arms and you waking up?
No, when I was under, I had some very vivid, random like dreams that were happening. I guess I was trying to buy my tube, but in a dream, I had a dream that I was like biting a fish or something, and I had to gnaw my way free, and biting that because they had me in restraints. And there was a vivid time where I remember when I was under, where I see these people, and I thought I was locked in a dungeon. Like I was trying to like get my lung out of me, but when I realized now I was in the hospital bed and it was the doctors that were around me. But in my opinion, I thought I was in a whole different world.
Wow.
That'd be a great story to dive into. I've heard a lot of stories.
Oh, listen, remember, Blake's going to come on here. Blake's got some stories to tell. So, you know, Blake is my first sponsee that I've ever got through all 12 steps. I'm pretty proud of that one. I'm going to put him on my trophy case. So let's talk about, you know, where we're at now, because obviously you've been through the steps, right? The promises are more than revealed themselves to you multiple times, right? I mean, your and Blake's relationship is growing.
He eventually moved down here.
Right.
Yeah.
How long after when you come awake, Blake, did you move down here?
Oh, yeah, because it was kind of random that I knew I needed change.
Up here, sorry.
I needed change because I was trying to quit drinking, and I was, I knew where my life was at the moment because I was on disability and I wasn't doing anything today. So I knew I wanted to change it when I woke up, and then they started talking about my living situation. I said, I'll just move in with Christy. And then...
yeah, it's just around the corner.
Yeah, right. And, but I was fortunate enough to where my dad, that I haven't talked to, came down with his truck and trailer. They loaded up my stuff while I was still in the hospital. And the day I got out... was when January 11th of this year is when I moved back to hotel.
Yeah.
How many days you got sober now?
I'm at 40 days.
Attaboy.
Right. Yeah, and but right before that I was like, dang, like he's moving, this is what we gotta do. And I was like, we gotta get into steps. My sponsor's like, you have a lot going on. Are you sure you're ready? I'm like, I have to do it right now because this is where we're at right now. I need to do this. And it was like kind of just like my finishing thing for myself before I get into the next chapter.
Right.
I feel like. So it was like, okay, clear this so then you could turn the page.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's kind of where I was at in my head with it, and I felt good doing it because it was just one less thing that I had like on my plate, on my list of things to do, I feel like. So yeah, I took care of that. And at first, again, because we weren't even together. So then the fact that we just like, okay, now we're moving in together was a little bit different. But I even told his friends because, and I updated him like on his phone. I text him every day of updates about how he was doing. I'm like, hey, today's day 4.
Even when he was out?
No. When he was in the hospital, I was updating him on the phone. So I was like, hey, like, you've been under for 4
that's
4
what I
days
meant.
now.
You were
you
were writing him basically letters while he was out.
Yeah, while he was out, yeah.
Have you went back and read those?
Yes, I did. About once I came here, it was about a month later. She said, "Did you read anything I sent you?" And I said, "No, I was supposed to." And so I sat down and read. I got a little teary-eyed.
Holy shit, I bet so.
But yeah, listen, as he gets day 60, 70, 80, as it comes back, you just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah, so I updated him. I was like, hey, you're about to go into procedure. I'll be back in a few hours. Your doctors are no older than 20, so I'm sure you'll be fine. And I added like a little humor into it a little bit.
That's so funny.
But at this point, like I still,
do you know what you were doing right there? Do you know what you were doing? You were one alcoholic helping another alcoholic. Whether you know that or not.
And helping yourself.
You were getting out of your own head.
Right.
Working with another alcoholic.
Yeah.
Even though he couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had to bring that up, but that's what she was doing.
I think that's why that came in whenever I went to those meetings. There was hey, I'm here on an AA helping hand, like, and that's all I could say is that, like, I'm here for my ex. Like, this is weird, right? But as he's getting better, my walls started coming down. And I was like, dang, because they built so high after us breaking up that, and I don't even think that's what he wanted in that moment anyway, because he's ready to move forward. And I'm like, I'm still right here. Hold on.
Right.
But.
You were in recovery and he wasn't. Mm-hmm. So you were wanting to move forward with recovery.
Yeah. You
didn't want to have to take care of another alcoholic during your recovery.
Right. So then in that, it was definitely hard because most of our conversations, obviously, I could tell that he was drinking. I could tell that, he started getting irritable, and the conversations became shorter and shorter and shorter, which was fine in that moment. But I needed to kind of step away a little bit
for yourself.
Yeah. And then kind of just see, like, dang, this is what you didn't want. This is what you didn't want, and, but once he got sick and he went to the hospital, I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. We've gotten to this point of
but she is a caretaker also.
Yes. Yes.
enabler.
Kind of, yeah. It's our character defect. It depends on how you use it.
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
I'm
and
the same way.
I remember like us drinking and stuff, and I knew like if he was here visiting and I came home, he was already going to be drunk. So by the time I got home, I just drank until I was all those hatred and mad and everything else just came out.
Hate drinking.
Yeah. Yep.
Fuck you drinking.
Yeah.
Mad at a man drinking.
It was fuck you
drinking.
drinking.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was until it just got too far, like where I'm like, hey, like I'm gonna come burn down that lady's house. I swear to you, pulling up on her lawn and shit like a crazy person. Like this is like what? And I looked back and I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. But so I separated myself. But right before he got sick or whatever, we kind of started just chit-chatting, how you doing, all of that. But yeah, ever since that,
we'll get back into that story when we have Blake on here, right? So let's talk about where you're at with your mom right now.
Where I'm at with my mom right now? Oh. Okay, so right now, we're not on talking terms.
Okay.
I sent my son to go with his aunt in Oklahoma and kind of give him a different opportunity because there's certain things that he can learn that like there's a pond 40 feet outside this back door. There's, he's helping his uncle work on the truck. He's riding horses and going to rodeos. Like there's so many things that I can't give him while he's here that he needs to see before he slips into bad habits, and which I know a lot about, so it's like, hey, like I want to stop this.
He's your age when you got pregnant.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have to grab the bull by its horns, really, because
super smart. I'm gonna be right because when Bonnie, everybody knows my wife, when she graduated high school, she was right. They sent her to Oklahoma. Rodney Butler, her older cousin, lived in Oklahoma, had a place, and they sent her back there to Oklahoma to get Miracle. That saved her life.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It did.
See. So, yeah, and it's been a lot because he's so angry right now, and that's one of the things that I'm working through right now is that his anger towards me for doing this, he's not going to see it until he's older, but it comes with, there's no ill will in that. There's no sour thought of why, I didn't, he says like all these things like, oh, it's just because you couldn't handle it, and I'm like, well, if I think about it, it's not the things that I can't handle, it's what I can't give you at this point. And if I could give you these opportunities in different forms and me not personally do it, that's okay too, as long as you're getting these opportunities. And
there it is. As you grow up, people listen. When your parents, when these kids, if there's any kids listen, you get a moment to make a decision. You get just like with your daughter, you've got a moment to change a life, to try to. Yeah. And you got to do what you got to do.
And I think I didn't do that for the first one, and the second one I gave up for adoption. So this one I'm like, hey, like I really have to do something for him because I haven't been there for any of the other ones. Like I have to be there for him, and he may not see that now, and that's perfectly fine. But I know that I'm doing the best that I can with what I have given, and that's all I can do. So right now, like with my mom, she definitely doesn't agree with my decision, but growing up also, I had so much freedom, but then I have trauma with that freedom.
Absolutely.
So what I'm trying to avoid, is him having so much trauma
from his freedom,
for his freedom. And so it's a little bit different, but yeah, we're not on talking terms. I kind of just told her, like, hey, just leave me alone. Because there's every moment that she can where she's saying something negative, but it's not going to, I can't let it affect me because I know and I stand by my decision that at whatever point, as a grandma, you have to know your role. You are a grandma. Yep. But it's hard for her to switch that because she was also a second parent for my other kids. So it's kind of turning off that switch. But with that, I can't control on how she thinks. No.
You're making these decisions on a sober brain, on a sober mind, sober state of mind.
Right.
to where you didn't have that sober state of mind with
Thoughtfully
the
and
other.
prayerfully she was
Right,
making it.
right. You didn't have that with the other two.
Right.
You have that with this.
And
Yes.
Christy understands that, but Mama don't.
Right.
And that's a hard thing too, is because you kind of just want, I don't know, for me, I wanted my mom's approval.
Absolutely.
You know, and just to hear that she's proud of me, which hasn't been a thing, you know, and it's very hard to say that, you know, even though like whatever, she might even listen, you know, but there's nothing I could do or change anything that has happened. I just have to make sure that I don't make those same choices, whether her decisions were right or wrong, or what she felt in that moment, even if it's something different than what she has chosen. I have to do it because I have to do what I have to do.
Absolutely.
And she's going to either respect it or it's not. But then that goes into sobriety too. I can't worry about what other people think.
I was just going to ask you that. That just was
Well, what other people think about us or not is not our
No, and it
business
comes
anyway.
back to that is you had to make a decision based off of your sobriety because that had to put a little bit of a strain on your sobriety.
Right.
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 I mean, but it wasn't made in a cipher either.
No,
there was
no.
reasons
That's
why
my
she,
point.
We've been pondering on this for 2 years on sending him to Oklahoma, but every single chance I'm like, nope, I'm not ready. Nope, I'm not ready.
Right.
But this time I'm like, you know what? Like I can't give this to you. But you know, she messaged me a few things, and it was like, hey, no matter what you put me through, I never gave up on you.
Oh, I see.
I said, but you did. And she said, how? And I said, because you gave in.
Huh.
Right.
And
Wow.
what is the difference between giving in and
Giving up.
giving up? You know, and that's a hard thing, is that I'm not giving up, I'm not giving in, and I'm not going to be part of what is yet to come if he continues this path. I can't be a part of that. But I mean, I watched my oldest one, you know, struggle, and he's in active addiction right now. And, you know, it's just so hard to watch that. And I don't know if a knock on the door is going to be an officer telling me that he's no longer with us. It's the hardest thing to see that, you know, or feel that, or worry about that, you know, but I have to make sure that it doesn't happen for the next. And if I see patterns and everything else, I have to make appropriate changes so that the outcome is no longer an option.
And you loved him enough to let him go. That's tough.
I'm going to ask a question, and I don't mean this to be a mean one. Do you feel like you made a geographical change for him?
Okay, so for that, I feel like there's going to be, for geographical change, I think in sobriety is kind of just different because you are going to follow, right? But as a young child,
right,
there's a difference between an older geographical change, right? And getting to that moment right before they start thinking that they have control over their life and everything else. We're kind of at a half and half where he thinks that he has control so much, but if I let him take it, and I told him this, you know, a year back, I was like, hey, I said, you know, average lifespan 75. I said, if I give you control, you're not making it to 75. That's where me as a mom needs to step in to help you get to 75, because at this point right now, you won't make it till you're 18. And that was
because of the direction,
because of the direction. And I don't want to see another kid struggle. I've done enough of that for me. You know what I mean? To be a part of that, I can't be a part of it again. And if I just let it go and let him and give in, then that's where we're going.
Right.
But that's the place that I choose not to have as an option. I'm not doing that. And there's certain things, like as I was growing up too, like I don't know, I ended up using with my mom. And it was kind of a thing where, like, she was leaving drugs in the top drawer so I could go to school and everything else. So it's like, that's what I meant by giving in, is because instead of trying to battle the thing of like, hey, this isn't good.
Yeah.
Here this is.
You broke the chain.
Yeah.
You broke the chain.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to follow through with doing. So it doesn't matter the comments or anything like that. And I'd hate to say that on, you know what I mean, on the podcast, but facts are facts. And this is what it is, you know. But it was definitely hard rather than, seeing, okay, well, no, honey, drugs are bad.
Right.
And it was like, hey, where we had a drug dealer in the kitchen counter, and as he's just talking shit about me, he was mad about whatever, and my mom's sitting there going, yeah, yep, she's a bitch, and he's just pouring out more. And it was like, I was like, what in the fuck? So I went in there and I swiped it all off the kitchen table. I said, what now, bitch? and then that was it. But it was like those battles right there are so hard to look back and go, dang, like, I'm not giving in like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do it. I refuse to do that.
Good for you.
Because of how I felt. Like, yeah. And I said that too. I said, she said, oh, she's going to think that you're just giving him away and everything else. And I said, no, that's not even it. I said, he can think whatever he wants because a child's perspective is going to be off no matter what. Yep. And I said, and I thought you were the greatest mom in the whole world because you were giving me drugs. Mm. But at what point is there a realistic thought in there? Like,
right.
like,
I mean, what keeps us clean is not the result. What keeps us clean is our motive in the moment.
Right.
I mean, you're doing it out of love.
Right. And for her, to be doing that, like, I understand I was a difficult child. There was no way around that. And I feel like that was her only option in that moment. So I don't blame her for that. Yeah. And I can't think about all the things that, we went through or what we could have, should have done again, but I have to learn from those. Like, they're all lessons.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether they're even be mine or somebody else's or seeing that,
If not, we're going to repeat them.
Right. If we don't learn from them, we repeat them.
Right. So
I'm proud of you, kid. That's tough.
Yeah, very, very.
It's funny that you said that because that's where Bonnie went, back to Oklahoma with Rodney. And by the pond, there was a pond they go fishing. And she came back and that was at 19 years old. Yeah.
Change of perspective. That's not change of, that's to me. And the reason why I asked you that,
as a child, she got away from this,
right,
and got to see something other,
right. I mean,
and then it was just having
it's
more
not
wholesome
just
there.
This, right? Yeah. They're not just behind these four walls of this house.
The child isn't running. The child is going for.
No. We were running. I know, and there's a reason why I asked that, and the reason why I asked that obviously came up. It's not a geographical change because I can hear some of the listeners going, "Well, they just made a geographical change." No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it was not.
I've had a few people say that too as well, and yeah,
that's apples and oranges though.
1,000%.
Yeah, but if you do that as you're an adult, and you have responsibilities and everything else, so you make that geographical change, you will follow.
Yep, and you take you with you.
Right, yep. And he can, as a young boy, take that with him, but he has that opportunity to make it something better.
Absolutely. So, he doesn't have the saddle of everything else.
He might stay there. Fishing's great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see what.
Just kidding.
What comes, but yeah,
How are you today?
I am blessed.
Atta girl.
I'm blessed. We have that bingo today, and
you stay pretty involved.
I do.
Atta
I
girl.
feel like I have to, but with service, man, that kept me sober for a while.
Absolutely.
And you're good at it.
Yeah, I like.
It's a gift.
I like being that personality coming through, like, hey, I was really afraid of like not having fun in sobriety. I was like, oh, you know what? Well, I'll just plan the parties. Like, let's do that, and so that's kind of where it went. But yeah, so I stay super involved in that. And then today I just got my first sponsee.
That's awesome.
Nice.
If you need help, let me know.
Yeah, I was going to text you. I was like, oh, he's recording. So, but yeah, there's just certain things that
don't throw them out of your house like I did.
Yeah, that are coming my way, right? But yeah, no, they always say like wait for the miracle, and I think my miracle is my perspective.
Oh, that I like that.
It's my whole way of thinking has changed completely. Certain little things that would just irritate me, I'm like, oh, you're in a hurry. Oh, let me pull over because you need to go. You seem like you're in a hurry, and it just
isn't it amazing?
And your time was obviously more valuable than mine. Right. Let me get out of your way.
Yeah, yeah. So
it's that 10th step that we go through all the time. It's like
spiritual fitness,
right? It's that, and one of the things literally, Blake and I just finished this up. It's like with your thought process as things happen, and I've told you guys the Home Depot story where, I was 4 4 months sober and
ripped it in a row.
just literally right out of doing my steps. And this lady at Home Depot just wasn't working as fastly as I want her. And I ripped her new ass right there in the middle of the store. And I
then did a 10-step.
Oh, immediately. Just immediately. And I was like, you did not deserve that. I am so sorry. She goes, no, it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to be spoken to like that. But this is what we do, right? Our perspectives, like you just said, are changed.
That God consciousness we get.
Prior to me getting sober and prior to me, I'd have fucking walked right out and never even bothered me the rest of the day.
You've been proud of yourself, man. She learned a lesson right there.
Yeah.
Drank a few on the way home and never even thought about her again. Why that poor girl's home, crying because of some asshole ripped her an ass. So, yeah, it's that whole change of perspective is the miracle. It really is.
Too, with being that he just completed his steps, also that I see changes too, and I always told myself, I'm like, you know what, like I can't date a normie. Like that's just probably not going to be a thing. And I was thinking, I'm like, dang, I really got to have somebody like in the program to kind of match me on my levels of just listening, and just in that moment, I realized in these last couple weeks that I'm like, dang, like when you're listening to understand now. And it's like, it has brought like together, our communication is just so much better. So I'm glad that I'm able to see that and what but yeah, I'm glad that I'm able to see that and actually see the changes, because before me being sober, I wouldn't have been able to see the little things things that add up to great things.
Yes.
He had a good sponsor.
Yeah, he did.
Shit. Oh, hey, I'm not going to doubt that. He probably did.
Because of his grand sponsor.
That's right.
His grand sponsor was awesome.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, so it's been a blessing.
I'm so happy for you, Christy, and I'm so thankful that you came on today. I was mad at you guys at 8:55 when nobody was responding, but it worked out. We got to do Rob's birthday, and I'm so blessed that you came in and told us your story.
It's a great story.
Thank you.
Know what? As I said in my prayer, we do this so other people don't die, right? It's why we do this. It's the reason why that 12th step is there. We step out and help other people for multiple reasons. It's A, to keep us sober, and 2, that we can possibly help another soul, right? And for you guys coming on, and Blake, I will hopefully come back and tell his story.
90.
Huh?
I'd like
on your 90 days.
90 days would be perfect.
And that's why we do this, right? And your story will save somebody. And thank you so much for coming on.
That's God's time. That's
right.
God's person. We'll let God handle that end of it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say? I'm not cutting you off.
No.
You're doing pretty good.
I'm very, very happy that you came on and told your story. You did it very well. That's the other thing about this platform. You probably told your story in a meeting somewhere, but you don't get to get into details, right? You got 35 or 40 minutes to tell your story.
But look how fast, when you do the steps, how fast God moved.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Once that work, just like Nathan, once that work is done.
Oh, good.
It's
good grief.
Yeah.
The promises just come, and you don't even recognize that they're coming so quickly. That's why when I hear those old timers, well, you didn't get sick overnight, you're not going to get well. Shut the fuck up. Right.
You don't know the steps, you don't know God. Shut up, old timer.
Right.
Idiots.
Anyways, if you want to reach out to Christy, Recovery Unfiltered podcast at gmail.com. Reach out. I'll get you in touch with her. I guarantee if there's any women out there that want some help and have questions, anything, Christy would be more than happy to help.
Remind me to say something off the air because I don't want to slam people.
It's unfiltered.
No, it'll be
other way around.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't want to offend anybody because it will offend.
Fuck them.
No.
Oh, anyways, Christy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Blake, thank you.
Oh, thank
I'm glad you came into my life.
Oh, appreciate that.
All right, Recovery Unfiltered podcast at gmail.com. Recovery Unfiltered podcast at gmail.com. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you learned something today that will help you.
If you did not, come back next week and we'll try again.
If you like what we heard, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what you heard, kiss my... You can't say that, can you? Anyway, if you don't like what you heard, go ahead and tell us that too. We'll see what we can improve. We probably won't change nothing, but do it anyway.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Come back next week and hopefully something will be different and something will sink in. Take care.
This has been Recovery Unfiltered.